Continuing the conversation on calculating your GHG footprint, let's now discuss the difference in Scope 2 location and market-based accounting. So as you may have seen, there are two different ways to calculate Scope 2 emissions, and the best practice outlined by the GHG protocol suggests reporting emissions calculated under both methods. First, on the left, we have the location-based method. This method is solely based on where electricity was used, usually by country or by state or region within the US. The electricity consumption is then assigned an average emission factor from all sources of energy, including conventional sources and renewable energy, in that particular location or region. Next, on the right, we have the market-based method. This method is based on what you've contracted to buy. All energy purchased through contractual agreements is assigned either a supplier-specific emission factor or zero emission factor if renewable energy is part of the contract. All remaining energy in the power grid that is not claimed through contractual agreements represents a residual mix for which average emissions are then calculated from. If your company does not have any contractual agreements, such as RECs, you will use a residual mix emission factor for the market-based method. We'll talk a bit more about emission factors for location-based versus market-based on the next slide. For location-based and market-based methods, you'll want to use the most precise emission factors available, just like you would for Scope 1. For the location-based approach, some common examples of regional or subnational emission factors include EGRID or the EPA in the US, DEFRA in the UK, and national production emission factors from the IEA. For the market-based approach, in the US, for example, you could use residual mix factors from Green E. As a note, if you are using residual mix emission factors and have not applied any RECs or GOs to your footprint, the total GHG emissions from the market-based method should be higher than the total GHG emissions from the location-based method. For some countries where market-based emission factors aren't available, you may have to use a location-based factor as a proxy. In the next couple of slides, you will find common sources for these emission factors and a summary on how to account for both location and market-based Scope 2 emissions.